Hey guys, welcome back to Humphrey's Place. Today we're going to talk about how to replace your electrical outlets and giving your home a little upgrade and a more modern look. Let's talk about what you're going to need for this project. First thing you're going to need is a new outlet. This is a Decora outlet. You can get these on Amazon. There's a link below that you can follow. You're also going to need a pair of wire strippers. These wire strippers are from Klein Tools. They're probably the easiest and very user friendly. You could do your whole job and other things with this particular plier. I really like these. I use them for everything. They're in my tool bag and they really do the job. There's a link below for that. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver. You're going to need a voltage indicator. This is a great tool because it will tell you if there's power on the line. You could also use a plug-in indicator. These are great, but I'll talk a little bit about the difference between both of them. So the other thing is we want to talk about is the type of wiring that you're going to find inside your wall. You're either going to find a 14 gauge wire, which is a little bit thinner. The higher the number, the thinner the wire is, and this is a 12 gauge. The lower the number, the thicker the gauge. And typically you would use something like this if you were installing a heavy appliance, something like a washer and a dryer, a refrigerator, a stove. Typically the homes are installed with the 12 gauge wire. Your lighting and your electric outlets are typically using more of a 14 gauge, which is a little bit thinner, and if you look at both of them you can see the difference. One's a lot thicker than the other. So but before we start, let's talk a little bit about safety. First thing we want to do is make sure that you turn off the power to that circuit. So if for some reason you're working on an electrical outlet and you turn off the power, you want to make sure you take your voltage indicator, you test the line and the outlet to make sure there is no power. If there was power, this would light up and beep. You can also use your plug-in, which is pretty easy. You can just plug it in. If there's power, you're going to get a light that lights up. And also what's good about these plug-in indicators, they'll tell you if the wiring is correct. So let's talk a little bit about how to wire the outlet. And there's two ways to really do it. These outlets have a very convenient way to be able to just push in your wire along the backside. It has a place for your neutral here and here, and it also has a place for your hot. And the newer ones actually have a place for your ground. You push it in, you tighten it up, and that's all you need to do. The more traditional way is to put it on the side with the bolt and tighten it down with the Phillips screwdriver. So the only thing is that on the push-ins you can only do it if you have a 14 gauge wire. If you have anything thicker than that, like a 12, it will not fit and you're going to have to use the side. So how do you go ahead and cut a wire like this so you can use it either in the back or on the side? Well, if you look closely, these outlets actually have a wire indicator, and if you can see right here, it tells you what the length should be. So when you get your wire and you measure it up, it'll tell you exactly how much you're supposed to cut back off the insulation. And if you get your wire strippers, they also have an indicator in there, depending on what wire. You can, if you have a 10, 12, 14, 16, or 18, it'll tell you where to align it and what teeth to use. So since we're using a 14 gauge, we're going to start right about here, and you're going to just press down and then pull back. And just like that, it'll cut the wire. Same thing here. You're going to give yourself about that half-inch indicator. You're going to align it straight to the 14 gauge teeth, pull back, and there you go. So now you have your wires stripped, and because we are using a 14 gauge wire, you should be able to just push in the wire in the back. And like I said, this is your neutral and this is your hot. So what I like to always use is The screws along the side are chrome. I always say that that's the white. You also have some labeling here, but if you don't and you're just looking at the color, and then you have a brass nut, that's typically the side where the hot would go. So now that you have your wire strip, you can go ahead and push it straight in and it'll lock, and then you do the same thing with the black wire, and there you go, and it's locked. And then you can go ahead and pull back and push your ground wire all the way in, and that is going to require for you to go ahead and screw it in, and it'll tighten. And it's not as easy as the push, because the push have a clip, and the minute it gets pushed in, it gets locked in. So this you have to do a little bit manually, and there you go. You have a new outlet that's ready to go back into the wall, and you're ready to go. But let's say that you have a thicker wire, or you decide you want to use the side. Let me show you how to do that. So we're going to show how to do the sides with a thicker gauge wire, or if you wanted to use the smaller gauge and you just wanted to show how to do that, we're going to do that. So here is a 12 gauge wire, and like I said, there is an indicator, so we're going to figure out exactly how much to cut back, and then you're going to get your wire cutters, and it's going to also tell you where to cut back. And after a while, you get a pretty good sense on how much to do, how much to cut back. So now that you have that, this is what's great about these wire strippers, is if you just, you're going to need to do a loop, but if you line it up at the tip and you just turn it, you'll create a loop. Same thing on the other side. You go ahead, and there you go. So now you have your loops, and you're able to go back to your outlet. You always want to put the hook going to the right, and typically you might need to squeeze it in a little bit just to give it a nice tuck feel, and then you get your Phillips screwdriver and you tighten it. You do the same thing for the back. You're going to go ahead and put the loop to the right. This one didn't have to get a little tucked in, it's already there. You go ahead and you tighten it down, and you're going to do the same thing with the ground. The ground, you're going to go ahead and put the tip of it, turn it, and there you go. And then you're going to flip it over to the back, and you're going to open up this ground nut. Okay. And there you go. The last thing I want you guys to remember, and that is to always screw down the other screws. Part of what happens that I see a lot is if you don't push it down and tighten it down with the screw, you could have a short when you have another outlet right next to it as you're trying to install it. So it's always better to tighten them down and make sure that the screw goes all the way in, even if you don't have a wire there. Okay, well, pretty much that is how you install an electrical outlet. What I want to do is thank you guys for your time. Please subscribe and like my channel, and please look at some of my other videos. I have a comparison of these wire strippers, Klein versus the Milwaukee, and I'll tell you exactly why I prefer these over those. And at the same time, I want to make sure that you can do a little bit of improvement to your home for not a lot of money and get a lot of bang for your buck. So anyway, be safe and stay healthy, and I'll talk to you soon.
Is looking at you, kid.